Let's do it quick because, reparations. I mean, this is another example of a way that these inequalities can be addressed by laws that don't mention actual discrimination in the law. Because reparations doesn't have to mention the word black in the law. Reparations is compensation for a crime done to particular people, and so it could happen like it does in the Watchmen series. For anybody who saw that. Where you have these centers where you go in and they, through your DNA or whatever, confirm that you're descendant from slaves, and you get the money, or you get whatever compensation is deemed to be appropriate. Yeah. But it might leave out some people like Billy. Yeah. For example.
Yeah, I was born in Guadeloupe, man. I was born in a little island in the Caribbean. Came out here to the United States when I was 5. So, that's French citizenship. The question is, would I be eligible? It depends on your description. In my description of what I think an ideal reparative national plan, I would fit in neatly, just like everyone else. Just like we are producing conditions of justice, and so that we can all flourish. We're producing a system where the jails don't look as they do now. We don't just jail people. We're producing a system where that beach that you've described, Jesse, would be something like a reality, writ large, all over the country. We're working hard towards that, and that's what it would be. And there's a whole bunch of policies and programs that would then have to be instituted, obviously, for that goal. But yeah, it's a difficult question. I think that's part of, like, if we take seriously these questions, you'll find out that they get difficult. And so there are different other plans. There's people are talking about reparations in the form of a cash payment plan, a kind of a check. But then, who gets that and how? There's a military model of reparations that some people have proposed. It's a kind of a GI Bill, tuition for colleges and a housing allowance that we afford to our military vets, and so many others. But I'm really interested in the idea of just creating that. The baseline of justice. We'd see a much better country, if you ask me. Much better, because you just
So what do you think? What on this front? This is the question I want to end with: is what should the next RBG be looking to do? What's the next move for somebody? In terms of what are the rights that should be guaranteed? What's the next big legal project for you?
The next big legal project.
What would ideally, if you could take it anywhere?
My pet project has to do with national education. It's funny because things have changed so much, and in terms of the workforce and our understanding of how, what a worker looks like, and what are the next industries for growth, and where people can be employed and fruitfully compensated. But I will say that with all of the reforms that have occurred in this country, we've lagged so poorly on making sure that everyone is provided a really competent and proper, useful, and fulfilling and enriching education experience, where they are imbued with some real curiosity and excitement to learn and to perform and do whatever it is that they choose to do. We failed so bad on that, and it's led to a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. And so that's my bias. That's where I want to go. I don't know what that looks like. I am not an education policy expert, but
right. But new technologies and stuff make for incredible possibilities. It would be an interesting time to put some real creative people with values in charge of designing a new education system.
It's also a scary time because we've got Donald Trump trying to do his re-education program that is, I forgot what he called it, man. But the whole point is very pro-America education, openly, consciously seeking to do that. This is going to be an interesting battle among so many other battles.
Don't you guys already have that? It sounds
exactly.
It sounds like every time I talk to people about the education they got in the US. I mean, we have a pro Canada one. We have some I think most nations probably do that.
Sure.
Okay, my goal for the next RBG, where I think they should take it, and this is coming from my perspective of like, I'm just going to talk about what's morally right, not what's possible, not what's pragmatic. I want to see people start, like, I'm going to start putting this out there and start building the idea of something that's morally right and make it practical over time. This is the long-term project. The extension of U.S. citizenship to all of the Western Hemisphere. Or U.S. citizenship rights. Like I have no idea what this actually ends up looking like, but something along these lines. Like, Honduran people have not ever had independence, right? Like, they live in an empire. The U.S. embassy decides what happens in their country. When something happens that the U.S. embassy doesn't like, there's a coup d'etat and the government's overthrown. They're living under a coup government right now. And this is the story of Latin America. Every country. Maybe with the exception of Cuba. But Cuba's under a blockade. So it's like and I think this is interesting because this is the question of who's a citizen and who has the rights of a citizen in an empire is one of the things that caused the fall of the Roman Republic. Just to do a quick little history recap, is that, the Roman army was recruiting soldiers outside of Rome for its military campaigns, and then was promising them land and blah blah blah, and then integrating them into the thing, but then they wouldn't have voting rights. So you'd have these land-owning people that were not ethnically Roman, and now they're landowners inside the Roman Empire, which, according to the concept of Rome, these landowning men should now be able to vote on who's in the Senate and all this stuff. And there was a divide on that, and Julius Caesar took the side of yes, they should have voting rights. He was probably had his own reasons to do it as somebody who was leading these military campaigns and had his name out there in these places, had fought with these men. He had their allegiance probably, so he had his own probably personally ambitious reasons for why he supported them having the right to vote. And this was like the political divide that led to Julius Caesar taking the military and doing a coup d'etat basically, and ending the Roman Republic and having it become a dictatorship. And so that's an interesting little history lesson. So, like, this question, I mean, like, you could imagine if some left-leaning Democrat was to hit the legislature, hit the Congress today and say, I'm putting forward HR 417 to give U.S. citizenship to everybody born or living in the Western Hemisphere. Like,
wouldn't happen.
It'd be so insane. But there is like a serious moral argument for that. That these people are governed. In many ways, their president is the president of the United States. In many ways. And so they should get to vote. It would be interesting to see. I just want the exercise of having a brilliant legal mind, a constitutional scholar who knows their history of the Western Hemisphere, and it probably would. And this is the thing: it probably wouldn't end at the Western Hemisphere. It would probably then go to all the coups and all this shit. That
I was going to ask you how that goes, but I mean you're talking about.
But let's start with the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah. Okay.
And And I would just love to see how a legal, like a constitutional legal mind would make, like an RBG would make the argument for why Colombians and Haitians should be considered U.S. citizens, should get the rights of U.S. citizens. I think that would be fascinating.
That's interesting. I'm not mad at that. I mean, that's a long project. You said that at the outset. You at the same time, the question was, I think, like,
looking
what's the next?
Looking for help on this one. We're hiring.
The question I think was, what's the next RGB move? But I think your answer was way down the line, and I appreciate that. That's
like like a big frontier. Like for me, this is like a big frontier.
Yeah.
And people who oppose it, it's like, well, then end the empire. Stop having so much influence on the politics of these places, and stop with the military. To take home all these 700 and something U.S. bases that are all over the world. Close those bases. Or give those people rights.
Right.
within the empire. Acknowledge you're an empire first, and then decide whether
Exactly.
you're going to keep. If
So
you're going
many
to keep
things
the
to
empire,
unpack, Jess.
then give these people rights. If you're going to keep the empire, then give these people rights. If you don't want to give them rights, then go home.
Yeah. Lots to unpack there. First off, we're not an empire. I don't know what you're talking about. So it's like that, right there, that's how the conversation goes. We have a lot, and this is why things do need progress. If that's the long-term vision, there's many, many steps that need to go before we get there. And it's good to focus and be very deliberate in a way that it seems that RBG attempted to say, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and she learned, she probably built a ton of confidence by noticing how the court worked here and the work that she did with the ACLU and developed a strategy for all the successes she had.
Mm-hmm.